71 Brewing Company Left Coast IPA.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. I have got another one from the craft beer range that Lidl are doing at the moment. I say they're doing it, I think they may have stopped because there is no more information about these beers on their website. So if you haven't got anything from their range now, I urge you to get it, because if you don't, I think you're going to miss out. This is not advertised on the site, but I did pay, I think, £1.79 for it. And if you want to get it cheap, the 71 Brewing Company do this for £2.45, but of course Lidl are doing it cheaper. So I'd say get your skates on and get yourself down to Lidl if you want to try it. Now, 71 Brewing are a brewery from Scotland, funny enough, and they are the third brewery from Scotland that Lidl have showcase their craft beers in their festival from. I don't know what's going on with Lidl and Scottish craft brewers, but you've got the Williams brothers doing stuff, you've got the Loch Lomond stuff, and you've also got the 71 Brewing. So some connection with Scotland there, I don't know what. Now, a mate of mine has tried some of the 71 Brewing and he was not impressed. He actually ordered it from the brewery and he messaged me and said, don't bother. He said they were absolutely terrible. In fact, did he order them from the brewery or did he buy them from Sainsbury's? I think some of their stuff was available in Sainsbury's, but he was not impressed. So I'm not really going to take that on board. I'm going to try it for myself and I'll give you my honest opinion of this stuff. Now, this is a West Coast IPA. Everyone knows the characteristics of a West Coast IPA. It should be bitter. It should be quite low on the malt flavour. It's all about the hops with West Coast, and it's not really about the sweet fruit. It is about the bitter grapefruit and the pine aromas in a West Coast. So let's see how they've done there. A little bit about the 71 Brewing Company. They're from Dundee in Scotland. They've been going not too long, about 2016 I think they started, but already they've got into Lidl in their craft beer festival, and I think, I could be wrong if someone wants to put in the comments, but I think Sainsbury's were doing their stuff as well. I'm almost certain it was Sainsbury's. But if you've only been going 4 years and you've got yourself into the supermarkets, that's not a bad shout. However, I do wonder how much of a loss they're making by getting their stuff into the supermarkets. I think it could be a good publicity medium for them if they're selling their stuff to the supermarkets, but obviously they're taking a hit because of that. Oh well, that's sometimes what you've got to do. Anyway, let's stop guessing and let's investigate this beer. Right. It is a 440ml can. It's 5.4%. On the back it says classic American hops are married to a rich malt backbone. Unusual for a West Coast, but it says a deep golden colour with flavours of citrus, pine, tropical fruit and a bold West Coast bitterness to finish. That does sort of sum it up, but you wouldn't get the rich malty backbone that they talk about in there. It's all about the hops with the West Coast style. By the way, I used to date a girl who worked in a brewery. She only had one leg though. She was in charge of the hops. Anyway, enough of that bullshit. Quick A bit about the brew sheet on this. You've got quite a lot of, when they talk about a malty backbone in this, it has got quite a few varieties of malt in there. You've got extra pale in there, which is the base malt, obviously. You've got Munich malt in there, which gives a nice nutty, malty aroma and flavour to it. You've got Cara Light, which is mainly used for stabilisation and for the colour. When I say stabilisation, it doesn't impart nasty flavours. You know, like that cardboard type flavour you get, like wet cardboard you get from some cheap lagers, macro brewed lagers usually. It cuts that out somehow. I don't know how. I'm going to have to look into the science of that, and I'll explain it when I find out. And you've also got Carapils as well, which Carapils is a good malt for giving it body and also retaining the head as well. That's its main function. It doesn't really give you that much flavour, which is fair enough. The hops, there's 3 types of hops in here, all American. You've got Simcoe, which is the bittering hop, reasonably common hop used for bittering. Magnum is the sort of go-to bittering hop, but they've used Simcoe in this one. You've also got Chinook, which is renowned for its spice, pine and citrus flavours and aromas. And of course you got the daddy of all hops, which is Citra, which is just intense citrus, normally grapefruit and bitter style citrus hops in there. Anyway, let's get this open and see what's going on. Right, I've got, I think, one more from the craft brew range, or is it 2? I think it's one more. I think it's the Berliner Weiss from the what is it, the something Gate Brewery, another Scottish brewery. Don't know what it is with Scotland, but here we go. Here's this one being filled out. Yeah, quite a nice head on that. The colour is pretty in keeping with a West Coast. You do get that sort of light amber, dark golden colour on it. Nice bit of carbonation going on there, and a 1 finger white head. What's on the nose? Oh, it smells quite nice actually. Very fruity. Fair bit of pine and grapefruit on there. There's a sweetness to it too. I think there's a bit of mango and passion fruit going on there as well. Mainly mango. But then I am getting that bitterness, like grapefruit bitterness, that you would associate with the West Coast style. So, let's get it down the hatch. Cheers. That's pretty much bang on with the description. I cannot argue with that. There is a lot of malt in this, which is unusual. Now, if you wanted to try the archetypal West Coast IPA, I'd go for something that Stone Brewing do. For me, they're the real purveyors of West Coast. I mean, there are other good ones as well, like the Anchor Brewery do. They were the original West Coast brewers, but I think Stone took it to another level and really give it the character that you expect from a West Coast now. And their IPAs, there's quite a few of them, but they're very bitter on the finish, and some people like that. I'm not a massive fan, and to be honest, this is a more palatable version of that. The mouthfeel is superb. It really is good, and I'm assuming that's coming from the Carapils, because that is what Carapils does. But there's a lot of sweet fruit going on there. I think I wasn't getting it on the nose, but there's more like tropical peach mango certainly, passion fruit, the sweeter style tropical fruit and tropical stone fruit than I would have expected in a West Coast. The pine is there, but it's in the background a little bit from what I'm getting. And there's a very thin undercurrent of grapefruit that runs through that. Now, to be honest, and I was reading an article the other day, and I think it was from, was it Australia or New Zealand, and it was at a beer award, and it was for West Coast IPAs, and the judges were complaining that nobody really got the style. They were saying that everybody was brewing their West Coasts way too sweet to be a true West Coast, and I think that's what they've done here. But I quite like this with the little touch of sweetness. I do find Stone Brewing are good, don't get me wrong, and they do West Coast IPAs, which when I open a can, I am all psyched up for big bitterness, like grapefruit bitterness, big pine. Not so much malt on the finish, but just like a bitter finish on the arse end of it as well. But I'm not getting it with this. This is a sort of a happy medium. If there was such a thing as a mix between the two, like a hybrid, this is more what I would expect from, you know, moving towards the East Coast a little bit. It's sweeter more than it's bitter, which isn't really what a West Coast is about. However, it is a nice drink. I will give it that. It's full of nice tropical fruit flavours, lots of hoppiness on there. But there's also that malty back end that they talk about, you know, the backbone, the malty backbone that they're talking about. And yeah, I am getting that quite a bit on the finish. Nice biscuit type malt. And all in all, I have to say it's not bad. I'm getting a bit of an orangey flavour to it as well on the finish, which is quite nice. Not something I would really expect from a West Coast IPA, but not bad, all things considered. So what's the verdict on this? Well, if you were all psyched up for a bitterness fest, then I think you're going to be slightly disappointed. However, on its own merits, this does not taste bad at all. I have to say, we're never making a big thing about the West Coast. I thought, yeah, there's going to be lots of bitterness, lots of grapefruit bitterness, big pine, and not a lot else. I'm not really getting that. This is more of it's like a hybrid. There is some bitterness on it, but it's more sweet fruit on this than there is anything else. It's all about the tropical stone fruit, like the orange, mango, peach, passion fruit, that type of thing, than it is about the real bitter grapefruit and pine, which I would be expecting more from a West Coast. But I have to say, it's not bad. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I'm going to knock marks off for the description. I don't think it's a true West Coast, not in my opinion anyway. However, it's not bad. Would I recommend it? If there's still some available at Lidl's for the price, I'd say get it, because I have yet to try a bad one from that craft beer festival that they're doing. It really is, I think, a really good showcase for British craft brewed beer. Whoever came up with the idea of, or whoever picked them beers, made a pretty good selection, I think. None of them have been absolutely outstanding, but none of them have been too shabby. And for the price, this is the crux of it. It's the price. You can't go wrong, because I know for a fact there'll be other craft brewers, which I'm not blaming them. You can't compete with supermarket prices, but you wouldn't get a beer of that quality for that price direct from the brewery. And to be honest, I don't think you wouldn't get a supermarket's craft beer core range for that price either. Certainly not in the quantities that they're selling this. I mean, this is 440 and that's 179, and the 71 Brewing Company do that for £2.45, which again is reasonably cheap, but obviously not as cheap as 179. So yeah, 7 out of 10, definitely recommended, as are all the craft beer range from the Lidl Craft Beer Festival. I would recommend it. And yeah, get yourself on down to Lidl's. And remember, beer is working class champagne.